Hi everybody, I'm Jeff with Virginia Paranormal Investigations, and tonight we're heading down into North Carolina along a haunted road called Dymond City Road. And this road goes through the location of where long ago a town once stood, and now it's a ghost town, long forgotten, and safe to say nature has come back to reclaim this land. It is now dense woods, and people see strange lights and other anomalies in the woods. Now Linda's going to tell you a little bit about what used to be here and some of the reports about what people see.
Dymond City was actually created back in the late 1800s. It was created by a company that came in to extract all of the virgin timber from this area. And what they did was they established this little town, and they also established a railroad. The railroad was called the Jamesville and Williamston Railroad, or the J&W. Now, the railroad was not known for a very smooth ride. It kind of was a very rough, bumpy railroad. So the passengers used to complain a lot. It ended up being dubbed the Jolt and Wiggle for J&W Railroad. But they would use the railroad also to extract the timber from this area to ship it out to different areas. But eventually, of course, like all other places, they ended up taking all of the timber out of here, and when it was all gone, the town started to die down a little bit. By 1920, the post office that they had established here was gone, and a short time later, in 1927, what remained of the town actually caught fire. The remaining houses, the hotel, all of it burnt down, and basically left just an empty town. And now, as Jeff said, eventually the timber and the forest came back to reclaim the area. Now it's just sort of a desolate, dark road that leads through some very dense woods, and it's supposedly completely isolated and very haunted.
So,
Can you see it?
yeah, I'm zooming in on it a little bit. Okay, so what is that?
We can't tell exactly what that is. It seems to be pulsating and flashing, and sometimes it flashes a bright, brilliant white, and most of the time it seems just red. This is another dirt road that goes off of this crazy little desolate intersection here. Both of these roads are gated. The gate that leads down that road is actually closed, so nobody can go down there. But we almost wondered if maybe this was the old railroad tracks because of the straightness. You can see for a mile down there. So I think maybe that might have been where the old railroad tracks were for the J&W line. But this road straight ahead of us is evidently the gated portion that stays open that many people have ventured down, although some people have said that they sit right here at this intersection at these gates and see things moving around down there and see lights, in particular on clear nights when there's a lot of stars out. The only thing we notice is that there is a single wide trailer right behind us and to our left, and we're not sure if this is occupied currently, but you know, we worry that maybe if we go through the gates and go down, because there is no trespassing signs on the gates, we're worried that if we go down there they might call the police. So we're going to sit here for a few minutes outside of these gates and just see if we can see what people have seen on previous occasions staring down this really dark dirt road. I'm not sure what that is. If it was headlights or taillights of a car, you would think that it would be a little more consistent or a little less consistent. I'm not real sure which to say, because that was 12 very distinct red flashes of light before it just blinked out, and now the red light is gone down there. You can't see it.
So there's quite a few stories about what people see out here, and one of them is really creepy. They say that back in the 20s there was a little girl in town that was possessed, and the priest came into the hotel to do an exorcism, and she actually jumped through the glass window and went crawling off into the woods somewhere. And to this day, people see her appearing around this area. They say her hair kind of flows in the wind and it's missing in patches, and her face is all messed up and really distorted, and just an eerie sight. So that's one of the things that's seen out here.
So another story that they say is that there is a red devil out here. And people have come down here before, and only one person in a group has seen this red devil. And supposedly, shortly thereafter, this one person that saw the red devil will end up passing away, either by a freak accident or perhaps by some sort of sudden ailment. But there was one instance where there was somebody who had come down here, and they started actually having all kinds of trouble sleeping after seeing this red devil. And for a while, for like a week, they could not sleep. And eventually, on the way to school one day, they fell asleep, crashed into a tree, and died. So the red devil is often seen around here as well. We're hoping we don't see that tonight, because neither of us really want to die anytime soon. We're so far out that I'm surprised even a station is coming through. So is there anyone here with us right now? We'd just like to talk to you and see who you are. Find out a little bit about you. Can you try telling us your name?
Can you tell us how many are here with us?
Oh, it's creepy out here.
How old are you?
Was Dymond City your home?
What was your job? What did you do for work?
How many people lived in this town? Stop that for a second. Stop it all the way. We do have the car engine running, and we want to keep that running because one of the reports is that cars die out here and don't start again.
Right.
And that would be cool to test, but the problem with it is I don't have cell phone reception.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have cell phone reception either, and it is pretty creepy. It's like right from the back of the car, somebody could be creeping up on us right now, and we would never know it because it's so black out here.
It is. It is pitch black.
It is. And then there's creepy sounds like these barking frogs out in the woods. They're like barking at each other. It's really weird. I have to say, while we were standing there, it almost sounded like there was another engine from a car coming up the road. And I kept looking back and forth to see if there was another car coming up the road, but of course there wasn't anything. So, but one of the reports is also that there are sort of phantom headlights that go up and down this road. Some people have claimed to see what they thought was a car coming down the road at them when the lights would blink out and no car would appear. So I don't know whether this is a car left over from a bygone era, but certainly creepy.
If you're out here with us, can you touch the end of this for me? Come up to me and touch this red tip right here. It may let us know that you're here. If there's anything you want to tell us about your town, now's the time to do it. But we have to know that you're here. Can you just come up and touch the end of this for me? What I'm thinking is if we're walking through what Linda said, we're very nearby where the heart of this town used to be. And if there are numerous spirits left over, still here, I should say, it's almost like we'd be walking through a crowd, and I'd be expecting this EMF detector to be going crazy, getting spikes all over the place. But then again, of course, it's just a theory that spirits even give off electromagnetic fields. I could be walking through a crowd of spirits right now, and maybe that theory is null and void, so it's not going off. A lot of animal sounds out in those woods, and some of them it sounds like some kind of a bird singing, and I wonder if, you know, with the way these birds singing sound in the difference, or in the distance I should say, and the way the frogs sound, if people actually mistake that for voices. Because when you come up here and you're in a place like this, it's so uncontrolled, anything can happen. And if spirits, a malevolent spirit, an aggressive spirit comes at you, or if just a person comes after you, there's really nowhere to go. You got to try to get in the car and get out of here and hope the road's not blocked, because there's nowhere to go back there except for a dead end. So you're already on edge when you're here. And a lot of people, I would think, when they come out to a place like this, they're ready to jump, they're ready for something to happen. And a sound like that off in the distance, it sounds like it could be almost a woman's voice. But if you listen closely, it's clearly a bird. It could cause somebody to kind of freak out and overreact and say, all right, I'm hearing voices out in the woods. What kind of bird is out at midnight, though? Do you know? There are birds that are up late, aren't there?
Right, yes. There are nocturnal birds.
Nocturnal birds.
Here. Like things like mockingbirds,
right,
are often up at midnight. You know, you'll hear them singing, making a lot of different noises.
It sounds like my kind of bird.
Yeah.
Now, if you come over here, come with me, just to the edge of the road here, away from the car engine. You might be able to hear what I'm talking about. Listen carefully. You hear it off in the distance?
Oh, yeah. I do. I don't know about the camera picking it up, but...
But then I did hear what you were talking about back there several times. I've looked back because I thought a car was coming up the road.
Yes.
And I know there is that trailer down there that has some cars parked out in front of it.
Right.
But I can't help but wonder if just where we are, we're surrounded by trees. It's just one narrow dirt road. Perhaps it's the acoustics out here. It's just our engine, really.
Could be.
But that's without a doubt a bird, and it can play tricks on you. If you're near your car or in your car, and you hear this bird along with these frogs and the other night noises, the crickets and such.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how somebody could mistake that for a voice.
Right. Now, I think the same could probably be said for the lights that people see out here. They claim to see lights hovering right through the treetops, fireballs, things of that nature. The trees, while they're dense, you can still sometimes see through treetops. And it could be that people, while they're a little bit already freaked out by the fact that it's such a creepy road, could be seeing airplanes flying beyond the trees in the sky. They could be seeing things, like that and mistaking it for some sort of paranormal phenomena when it's actually just an airplane or something natural. The fact that it is very creepy out here and you're constantly looking over your shoulder plays a big part in what people will perceive as paranormal versus thinking of the most logical explanation for it. But there's a lot of noise out here. There definitely is. And I can see how that would creep people out.
So now is your chance to talk to us, if you do want to be heard. Can you tell us the story about the little girl being possessed? Is that a true story? Did that really happen? We know a lot of legends get blown out of proportion and truth gets distorted over the years, and we're here to find out.
Almost sounds a little like we're here.
Almost. We're here to find out the truth, and we want to find out the truth from you because we think you're the only one that can tell us the truth. What happened to this town? From where I'm standing right now, where was the hotel? How far from here? Was it to my right or to my left? Front or back? What are the lights that people see out here? What are you trying to tell us? Are you okay with people visiting your town? Did you see that?
Yes.
It was the light shining through this thing.
Right. Reflected on the ground.
Would you rather people just stay out of your town and leave you alone? Would you rather them stay away from here? If you want people to stay away, tell us. We'll spread your message. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to tell us?
Did you work for the lumber company? Were you around here in 1927 when the fire broke out?
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Dymond City Road, and I have to say that locations like this are some of my favorite locations. You're out there in the middle of nowhere. It's a dirt road. There's woods all around. You never know what could happen. We didn't even have cell phone reception out there.
Right.
That's how desolate the area was.
Yeah.
And you never know, like I said, it's going to be crazy people in the woods,
Yeah.
or if you're going to encounter some real life spirits out there.
Right.
Now, I'll be the first one to say that I do wish we turned the car off. That engine was kind of distracting in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the factor that people talked about engines cutting off out there and cars not starting up again. And being that we didn't have cell phone reception, it was a very long walk
Long walk.
back to the paved road, and then an even longer walk back to the first gas station. We're talking like several miles.
Several.
So we don't really want to gamble with that. But Linda had a good theory. She said, let's keep the engine running to see if it cuts off.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of twofold. We kept it on, I guess to feel safe that it was going to start, or we're going to have problems starting it again.
Right.
And also to see if it did cut off, which it didn't. But when we got out there, we came down to the gate, and one of the first things that we saw was this light off in the distance. Now take a look at this video clip of this light really quick. All right, so
Can you see it?
yeah, I'm zooming in on it a little bit. Okay, so what is that?
We can't tell exactly what that is. This is another dirt road.
Now this light was interesting. My
Yes.
first thought was that it was a tower or
Right.
something off in the distance.
Right.
But you did a little bit of research on Google Earth,
I did.
and what did you find?
Well, I found nothing. Basically, what I did was I took a line straight from that vantage point down that long straight stretch. I took it out 20 miles, and I could find absolutely nothing that would have made that sort of erratic blinking. At first I thought maybe cars on a distant road, and you're seeing the tail lights and then sometimes the headlights, because at one point the red actually switched white and flashed white a couple of times. But you would think with a road like that, you would have continued to see it. And this just flashed 12 exact times in a row and then stopped. And we didn't see any more after that. So that made me believe that it definitely wasn't a road. That's the only thing I could find out there. There were no towers. There was nothing that could have made that exact flashing in that one spot. Not an airport, nothing.
So perhaps we did catch something there.
Yes.
There is the possibility of an explanation that we are overlooking, of course.
Right.
But we couldn't find anything that would be that light off in that direction. Now, we went up the road a little bit, and we broke down, we got out of the car, and we ran the spirit box. The location wasn't the most conducive to EVPs. A lot of times when you're outside, you can get things that are in the natural element, such as the
Right.
night sounds of the crickets and the birds that were
Yeah.
singing and
Too
various
much
animals.
ambient noise,
Too much
yes.
ambient noise to really pick up distinct EVPs and not possibly mistaking it for something else.
Right.
So we ran the spirit box. Now I'm going to play this first clip where it seemed like something came through, and I got to say before I play this, there wasn't really radio reception out there. Now I did hear a couple points where parts of a song came through. I don't know how we were getting radio reception out there,
Right.
but it was very few and far between the reception that we were getting. So here's the first clip, and after we play this, we're going to talk about what it could be. Now this clip, to me, it sounded like something almost electronic. It didn't even really sound like radio chatter or something you would hear on a radio. It just sounded like an electronic noise coming through the speaker. What were your thoughts on that clip?
Well, to me it sounded like a voice. I've listened to enough spirit box sessions here on the computer where I've heard this before, and it sounds like an electronic voice, like it's something being spoken by a robot. But yet you can tell by the way, I guess, the tonal inflections and the pitch of it, that there is a voice back in behind there. Now, the second word was, of course, 2 syllables, and to me that sounded like either people or evil. And perhaps it's evil or 6 people, because I believe you had just asked how many spirits are out here, correct?
Interesting. So it could be that it was telling us people.
It could be.
We talked about how we were where Linda believed to be close to the heart of the town. So there could be multiple people still left over from the town.
Could be.
Or there was that incident that
Right.
happened out there that did involve some evil with the little
Yes.
girl that people have seen in the woods.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the next clip that we picked up from the spirit box. So this next clip, I have to say, once again, it sounds kind of like a robotic voice,
Right.
but it almost sounded like it may have said a name. Now keep in mind, these
Mhm.
clips, they don't necessarily seem relative to the questions by any means. They come
Right.
through at random. That one, I was moving the camera around to get a better angle,
Mhm.
and this just popped through the spirit box. It almost like it sounded like it said Cagney to me,
Yes.
or something like that, perhaps a last name.
Yeah.
The only problem is with this town, you can't find anything on it. This town
No.
stood there from the late 1800s to like 1927. There's no pictures.
Right.
There's no
There's nothing.
ads from the train line that went through there.
Yeah.
There is nothing about this town except for little mention of it here and there.
Right.
So to find out the last name of a person that lived in
Live
there,
there.
it's
Impossible.
It's impossible. It's
Yeah.
almost like even the historical society, from what I found in the research, they seem to say that this town was in this area. They didn't even know the exact location where this
location.
town stood.
Right.
The reason we got to where we were is because Linda took an old map from the railroad company
Yes.
and overlaid it to Google Earth,
Right.
so we could get an approximate idea, and we know we were pretty close.
Yes.
From the descriptions, where people talk about going off in there and seeing the lights and hearing all these crazy sounds, to that railroad map, we know we were right in that area.
Yeah. We were
But there's
really
very
close.
little info to be found in that town.
Yeah, there really is, and that's the only way I could look it up was on that railroad map. And on the map, you could see where the rail line used to be. You know that the town would have lied very close to the railroad, because that's how they were exporting the timber from the area.
Right.
But the map also showed cities and towns, but it didn't actually perfectly label those cities and towns. It just you saw that grid of streets like you would normally see in a town, in right up against that area, right where the railroad was. So that's kind of the idea that I got, that perhaps we were right there in that area.
Right. Now, in the research, we do like to go to the source.
Yes.
And what better of a source to go to than to the spirits that may still linger?
Yes.
So in my line of questioning, when we were doing the spirit box session, I was asking if there's anybody out here, tell us your message, tell us the truth about these legends, about this little girl that had the exorcism performed on her.
Right.
We know that this truth and this stuff gets distorted over the years,
Yeah.
that, it turns into legend, it turns into ghost stories, and we want to know the truth. And when I was asking that, another voice came through the spirit box. Here's that clip right here.
And truth gets distorted over the years. And we're here to find out.
Almost sounds a little like we're here.
Almost.
So that clip is another possible response to the spirit box. Keep in mind, this does pick up radio stations, so it could have very well been radio chatter.
Right.
But what were your thoughts on that clip that came through?
I don't know. That was one of those that we were recording a little farther away from the source, from the spirit box at the time. But at the time, we thought that it said, "We're here." And it still sounds a lot like that. Not quite as much of the robotic voice that we heard in the previous clips. More of a normal voice this time.
Right,
But
just a real
still,
quick, we're
yeah,
here.
We're
you
here,
know?
yeah.
I could hear that, and I could definitely hear that. There is something that goes on, though, with when you're listening to these sounds,
Yes.
you're expecting a response. I wasn't necessarily expecting a "we're here" response, but
Yeah, I wasn't either.
you know, I could have pieced that together just through the nonsense noise. Who's to say? Could have been
Could
some
be.
audio pareidolia going on. We're not 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
But those are some of the possible responses we picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one last clip, you're going to have a hard time hearing it. But as we're recording this video, you can see us look back. We keep looking back behind the car.
Yes.
Because it kept sounding like there was another engine coming down
Right,
the road.
yeah.
It definitely sounded like there was another car going down the road. So
Yeah.
listen to this clip right here, and when you see our responses, see if you can hear what sounds like a second engine along with the car engine.
We're here to find out the truth. And we want to find out the truth from you because we think you're the only one that can tell us the truth.
Now this, I have to say, my first thought with this was the car idling.
Right.
You know, sometimes the fan starts running and it
Yes.
kicks up and it gets a little more high pitched.
Yes.
But the thing with this is, we were standing right at the front of the car, right next to that engine there.
Yeah.
If it was that, I would have thought we would have heard it firsthand, being that it was right arm's length away.
Right.
It
right.
wouldn't have sounded so much like it was coming down the road. This,
Yeah.
to me, at least 3 times while we were out there, 2 of the times I have to say I heard something that sounded like it was coming behind us.
Yes.
Now, once again, it could have been the acoustics out there. It could have been the car engine.
Right.
It could have been the way it was playing amongst the trees and such on this straight, desolate road.
Yeah.
Could it have been something else?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of the things that people report. Now, the other time, it sounded like it was coming from the front of us. It sounded like it was coming towards us.
Right.
And this was particularly strange because when I'm standing there and the car is back this way to my right, and I'm hearing something coming from the left,
Yes.
but nothing's coming down that road.
Exactly.
Could a car have come down and stopped short of us? It's possible. We
Right.
didn't see any cars that whole night on that road.
Yeah,
And
no
we were,
lights
we were
or
out there for a
anything.
couple hours. There was no cars that came down all the way down that road and
Yeah.
all the way around and back up, but we didn't pass a single vehicle until we got back out onto the main road.
Right. And I think that was the most unsettling thing that we were hearing throughout the evening that we were there. It was just because, again, you don't know whether this is some crazy local person coming up on you, whether it's just a couple of kids that were out looking for the same things that we were. But nonetheless, hearing that car engine, and it distinctly sounded like it was coming from off in the distance down the road.
Right.
And not knowing what it was or if there really was anything there coming at you, that was a little bit creepy. It was
A very
constantly
unsettling
turning
feeling.
back, looking over our shoulders. Yeah,
It is.
creepy.
And not because of the spirits, but just because if people come down there and they have ill intentions,
Yeah.
you got nowhere to go.
That's
nowhere
right.
to go. Especially if they got a, 4-wheel drive, because that road was a little muddy. You could have probably got stuck back there on a rainy day, that's for sure.
Yeah, you definitely could have, especially considering that we were in an escape.
Right.
But,
Right.
I mean, having a weapon or some sort of, means by which to protect yourself makes you feel better. But at the same time, you don't know what these people are carrying,
Right. So perhaps on the next trip out there, we cut the engine, cut the lights, walk around a little longer, spend more time. We could pick something up even further than we caught today. Now, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You saw the investigation. You saw the evidence. Of course, the skeptic could poke holes in this evidence, and there are rational explanations for everything we experienced out
Right.
there. But there is the possibility that some of this stuff is paranormal. You be the judge. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Jeff,
And I'm Linda.
and there's always much more to see in the dark.